TrekWars Duels Across the Stars. Episode 15. Top 5 movie scenes. The motion picture.
Jack the NPC has vanished. In his absence, a brave alliance of Klingon warriors have risen from the ashes of the Galactic Empire and will not rest until Jack, the Last Jedi, has been destroyed. With the support of the Federation, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. She is desperate to find the star of Seth Skorkowsky's YouTube channel and gain help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. Meanwhile, Leia has sent her most daring pilots on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to the best scenes from Star Wars and Star Trek.
Hello there everyone and welcome to episode 15, Top 5 Movie Scenes, The Motion Picture. I am Olympus. I am joined by my fantastic co-host.
I'm Ben Kerno, and can I introduce a special guest today? We have had role players in our midst. We've had GMs. We have had people who have aired TTRPGs on YouTube. But our guest today is the first person who has actually written a published adventure for a TTRPG. His YouTube channel has tabletop RPG reviews and philosophy videos, amongst other things. We could have asked him to join us while I did my world building for Star Trek Adventures game, or even join us for a role-playing game, but no. We have asked him to come and talk about Star Trek and Star Wars. So can I introduce the man who I've struggled to pronounce his surname, 2 times Emmy Award winner and GM to Todd, Mike and Dweebles, Seth Skorkowsky. And how bad have I butchered your surname today? Sorry.
Oh, you got it. That's fine. You don't have a name like mine and not just live with it being mispronounced all the time. So I don't even really notice that much anymore. It's just reality for me. Hi guys.
Anyway, thank you for coming on again. No, thank you. It's always appreciated for joining. So
It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us, Seth. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
No, we're talking movies, man. That's like my other big love. So we can just talk about this all day. So yeah, I'm down.
Oh, cool. Actually, as we're here, and I know most people will know you from your TTRPGs, but what's your experience with both Star Trek and Star Wars?
Well, I grew up, of course, in the early 80s. So Star Wars was like everywhere. I think that was the first like VHS movie I ever saw was Star Wars. Grew up with that. Grew up on the Droids cartoon. I mean, that's like that level of stuff. So I'm actually much more of a Star Wars fan than a Trek fan. Of course, grew up. I would catch Star Trek, but when I first started playing D&D, my dungeon master was a massive Trekkie. Like he joined the Navy to work on a nuclear submarine because he thought it would be like Star Trek. So when we would play, we had to stop at a certain time, and he would pull up Next Gen, and if he had not seen that episode before, the game was over, and we would watch that episode of Next Gen. And if he had seen it, I got to keep playing. So I grew up with a little bit of a bitter resentment towards Next Generation, because if I was watching it, that usually meant that I wasn't playing D&D. So I got into basically all of that is how I ended up becoming a fan. So I became a Star Trek fan later, but Star Wars is my first love.
Oh, cool. And another thing I'm going to ask before we get underway with our ranking the top 5 scenes from movies is, have you had any actually experience with any of the Star Trek or Star Wars tabletop games?
I've played some of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, so I've played that a few times with the really goofy dice system. And I have only played one game of the Star Trek the current one that's done by Modifius, with it was a demo game with Guy Sklanders from How to Be a Great Game Master. He is a massive Trekkie. And then there was Janet from World Anvil was also there. And she is also a massive Trekkie. So I came onto this game with like my knowledge, which is nothing compared to them. Like they're wearing the uniforms and they could just instinctively start talking in technobabble like it was scripted or something. It was the most insane thing I'd ever seen. And then guys started talking like Klingon, and it was like absolutely pitch perfect. And I'm like, I am absolutely out of my league for this entire thing. Like I have like my level of fandom is not even on their radar. So that was a trip because and I was also the captain of that scenario. So I'm like the biggest idiot because they're absolutely into it, and it sounds like somebody actually wrote out their script of what they were going to say when it came to technobabble and everything, and it was insane. So so I have played both. I've also played the old WEG Star Wars. That is the 2D6 method that originally came out in the 80s and then through the 90s. So I've played a little bit of that, but that's it. And before the show, we were talking like how many editions and publishers and stuff both properties have had over the many years. So there's a lot of different versions of each. So, but a little bit of each.
Yeah, one day I've gonna have to look those up and see what they're like, to be honest. So I know I've done 2 versions of Star Wars, but I've already done Star Trek Adventures myself. So. Anyway, shall we get on to our rankings? Or before we get to our rankings, we do usually do a little bit of rules, our own personal rules of how we do this. So but Olympus looks like he wants to say something. So
I'm going to jump in with the bit that we always forget, so much so that I now have a notepad up on the other screen to remind me to say it all. So guys, thank you all for jumping in and watching, but please, 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 also if you could hit the like and subscribe buttons, that would mean the absolute world to us. And as well, please comment below with your top 5 movie scenes. We would love to get into conversations in the comments on that too. Oh, and I guess last point, Ben, do we ever share our picks ahead of the recording?
Oh, no, we haven't. Yeah, not at all. And I know I've been the person communicating with Seth for this, but I have not talked to him about my picks, and he hasn't talked to me about our picks. I'm really speaking for you there, Seth. Sorry.
No, I have no idea what you guys are going to choose. I'd probably be listening to yours going, shit, that was way better than mine. So, which is usually how these things go whenever I'm asked to like come up with a top sub thing. Like I'll listen to the other people like, well, crap.
I equally tend to find that the top 5 that I have today will be totally different from the top 5 I pick tomorrow.
But it's like that when people ask like, what's your favorite movie? Yeah, it's like I have a couple answers that could be it. What I will say could change in 2 minutes. So it's kind of like there's a cloud of my top 5 that's probably like 20. But I'll just reach in and I'll pull out 5 and we'll say that's it. And in 10 minutes, I might have totally different 5. Who knows? So.
Cool. So I think if that's so, shall we just give our brief rules that we do at the beginning, just to define how we managed to pick that's Olympus.
Me first on the rules, okay. So I've decided, because in certain previous episodes we sometimes throw in wild cards from other sci-fi shows or movies, but I've decided for this episode only Star Trek and Star Wars movies. It has to be from a feature-length movie, however that is defined, and I've taken the definition of a scene because we said top 5 movie scenes. So the definition I've taken is a sequence of continuous action in a play, film, opera, or book. And I've used that definition extremely loosely. So we'll see what comes from that.
Cool. Well, Seth, did you have any thoughts? I know we didn't talk to you before, but did you have any rules you made to help yourself?
No, actually, right now, after the description it has to be a feature-length film, that definition is up to like, oh crap! I should have rewatched the Ewok Adventure before this. I just only chosen 5 from that, but oh well. I haven't seen that in like 35 years, so I remember nothing.
Yeah, and there's a couple of parody films that I suddenly realised I should have considered as well, especially the scene where somebody's combing the desert, literally. So,
well, if we could pull up parody films, I am literally just going to grab 5 scenes from Galaxy Quest. So there's my Star Trek answers.
Love it.
Anyway, no, I have literally just gone down the feature film length. I think it's 12 Star Wars films and 13 Star Trek films, I think.
Sounds about right.
Probably, yeah. But it's, literally those ones that I've gone through, and it's generally a long sequence. So, shall we go with number 5? So, do you want me to? I'll tell you what. I'll go first. That's because I've just fancied doing that. So, I am going to go to one of the trilogies that tend to get a bit of a rap because it's the most modern trilogy that's come out, and I want to go to The Force Awakens when Finn is on Jakku and actually comes into, I don't know if it's actually been given a name, but where Uncle Put has got like a little bit of a settlement or things there, and he comes in after having crash land on the planet, and he's trying to get water, eventually ends up sharing like this big, probably mess of a water pot with basically a giant hippopotamus. I don't know what the official name for the creature is. And then he comes into contact with Rey, who looks like somebody's attacking her, but is actually after the droid that she's been looking after. And he goes to help, and then suddenly realises she doesn't need help. I think that I know it wasn't the original start of the film, but I thought this was another start of the film that got me interested in and enjoying it. And I've just realised I've stopped halfway through describing the scene, and because it carries on him trying to help her along. It's like grabbing her hand and go, come and say, it's like, stop counting, I don't need your help, sort of thing. And eventually he gets knocked unconscious, and it's like, again, he asks her if she's all right. Yeah, I'm fine. Come with me. And then there's this amazing chase between the Millennium Falcon, what was their wording for it? I've realised I've lost whatever the wording was for it, but a load of trash, basically. And had this going through the Star Destroyer that's crashed on the planet, chased by a couple of TIE fighters, or probably more than a couple of TIE fighters. It just got me. I was definitely hooked into the film by that stage. I absolutely loved it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say it's a brilliant pick. Again, typically like this, you mentioned before, so I hadn't thought of that, and it's a great start because I think it really helps set the movie up very nicely. I feel like it introduces the dynamic between those two characters brilliantly, and also introduces Rey as a strong lead in the movie. Like, she is not the damsel in distress that's going to be saved. She's going to be the one sort of leading on that front. So yeah, I like that.
I also am a big fan of, this wasn't the start of the movie, but this is the start of where my interest or where I was hooked is actually one of the big things, because a lot of my answers are that, where it's like this is the moment that grabbed me. At anything prior to that in the movie was just like stuff, but this was where it started for me. So no.
I just realised most of my picks are near starts of films and stuff that got me hooked into the films, actually. I think was one exception, actually, but we'll get to that. Any other thoughts in that case? Shall we jump to Seth? Do you want to go next?
So just Star Wars or both?
Both, either or.
Okay. For me, it is it's kind of similar. It was like this moment that really captured me is Empire Strikes Back, and they see the AT-ATs or the AT-ATs coming, kind of across, because there's just these gigantic, robots coming toward them, and it, of course, it is very modeled after like World War II movies, because they're in these trenches. They're doing, and you've kind of got this, the enemy armor coming at you, and it is just this unstoppable things coming. And I always, for some reason, just really dug like those shots of you see them kind of coming out of that snow haze, and they're just monstrous, and the earth is shaking, and you've got these guys with rifles that are literally in a hole in the snow, and their job is to hold these people back. So that's for Star Wars. For Star Trek, I'm going way back to one of the lesser loved ones, Star Trek the Motion Picture. It's actually the shots of Spock when he leaves the Enterprise, and he's just kind of cruising through V'ger, and it's mostly just that, once again, it's a sense of scale, because you when you're seeing a lot of this stuff, you never actually get a sense of just how enormous this thing is. And you see it, spaceship with a star background, you have no sense of how big that is. And sometimes you see a spaceship with another spaceship performance, like, you have no sense of how big that is. But when he's just like this little guy in a suit kind of cruising through that expanse of across V'ger, and he's trying to get to what's ultimately the probe. That really got me. That was actually one of those moments in a movie, of that kind of that movie magic, of just kind of that, like, wow. So that was a very early one for me, for that movie, which most of that movie I don't really care for, but it had some really good scenes.
It is one of those movies. Yeah, it took me a while to actually get from start to end, but the imagery and the sense of scale on that was wonderful. I'll give them their due on that, and they put the money in there, and it did look good. But yeah,
I'll agree with both those comments, and I love how both of those movies and those scenes that you've selected, that both represent scale in different ways as well. Got the AT-ATs, you get to see the sheer size and I've lost the word. The aggression, I guess, of them. And then you see V'ger in a very different light, but equally just so big and mysterious and potentially threatening too. Yeah, love it.
No, the AT-ATs there, even though I've always wondered since I saw them, it's like, is that the best way they can move, as like 4 large legs? But I didn't care. It looked great. It was
if they didn't do that, then you couldn't have the creativity of how to get them down.
very true. Very true. It's I don't know why I didn't think of that film actually, or that start. I've got early on stuff from other films. Again, don't know how I didn't think of that one. Love that one.
Brilliant. So I guess my first one, I'm going to go with Star Trek 2009. I'm going to go into the Kelvin verse. It's the first thing, because I enjoyed that trilogy of movies in their own respect. And I'm going to go to the first scene that I think of whenever I think about that 2009 movie, and it's when Kirk decides to rock up to the shuttle to take him off to Starfleet Academy. And he sits down, he's fumbling around with his straps, trying to get all fastened in, struggling. And then Bones gets hoisted on to the ship, played by Carl Urban. So it's the first time we see Bones' character. And it's just that moment when they start talking, you just feel there's this real sense of the start of a great friendship between the two of them. And it's always I can't remember the quote directly off the top of my head now, but it's the way he explains how his wife took everything in the divorce and all he's got left is his bones. And I just thought, there you go, that's just such a beautiful way of introducing such a brilliant classic character. And I think personally that Carl Urban plays Bones just to an absolute T. I think it was brilliant in that trilogy as that character. So that's my number 5. I've taken that from Star Trek 2000.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And I got a love-hate relationship with McCoy, at least from the original series, because he was funny, but I always found that attitude towards Spock always as that's always seemed too serious towards it, to be honest. But I did love the version from J.J. Abrams. I was called it J.J. Abrams, so the J.J. Abrams film and the other ones afterwards. It's like their relationship. I love it.
I talk about the Carl Urban Bones a lot with people because what I loved about his portrayal of McCoy is he is not doing an impersonation of DeForest Kelley. He is somehow channeling this character. He is absolutely, unquestionably Bones.
Yep.
Like he is doing a perfect rendition of Bones without him trying to be DeForest Kelley doing Bones.
Yep.
You absolutely believe him as this character. It's actually one of my favorite examples of when an actor picks up a role from a previous actor and somehow hits it flawlessly, where he's not impersonating, he's just channeling this character, and it's 100% perfect. Another one that I would give, and this is great because it also happens to, this is a Star Wars, was Donald Glover's Lando. He is not impersonating Billy D. Williams, but he is absolutely Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
And which he was, my favorite part of the entire movie was just Donald Glover's Lando, because I always said, this is like Carl Urban's Bones, where it's like you have a younger actor who's taking a very big role, and a lot of people are going to be like watching, like, how are you going to do this right, and somehow channeled the character without trying to impersonate the actor who made that character very famous. And just absolutely nailed it. And you 100% believe, like, that's them. They look different, but that's them. I have no doubt in my mind. Just perfect. So, but no, Carl Urban's Bones is one of my favorite examples of that. It's just so good.
Actually, now I think about it, he's probably the only character out of the cast who actually I could go, oh, if I didn't know it was a Star Trek film, go, that's the character that they played from the original series. Yeah.
No, his portrayal of Bones was better than anyone else's portrayal of any of the characters, because all the others were approaching it, and you could tell it's this actor playing the character. Carl Urban was Bones.
Yeah.
And it's just, no doubt, everyone else is, oh, he's playing Kirk, he's playing Spock, she's playing her. That's just Bones. Bones just walked in.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I guess then, Ben, over to you for your next pick.
Oh yeah, I suppose it is me then. So I'm going to go to the original Star Wars film, A New Hope, and that starts where the Star Destroyer is coming over, chasing Leia's ship, the ship that Leia's on, chasing it. It's just that image of 153. You see hear the shooting, and then that big, ginormous ship coming over, which I don't know how they still managed to make it look smaller than what it is in real life, but it's still a massive ship. coming over, and then you see R2D2 and C3PO and another droid, another protocol droid somewhere behind, who I'm still curious who that droid is, walking up on the deck. And I believe, what do I believe? I did watch this a couple of days ago, and I'm suddenly having a mind blank of where exactly. But this is also when Darth Vader appears through the door, all the smoke and such like, and it's just like, again, an entrance and a half. It's just like, how can they do three brilliant entrances, even though you didn't know the droids were a brilliant entrance at the time, in one go? It's just like, again, impressive, even though it's from a few years ago. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I want to, not much of description, but it's just because I'm sure everybody's aware of that scene.
It's such a classic scene. I mean, brilliant pick. You hit the nail on the head, especially with the intro of Darth Vader. You had everything. You had the smoke for the atmosphere. You had the way he marches in. You have the breathing going. It was. I remember the first time I watched that movie as a little kid, and that is probably one of the first scenes that I remember from that movie. I know it's pretty much right at the start, but I think about that before I think about the size of the Star Destroyer, which is surprising because I love starships. But yeah, great pick.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Seth, at all?
Someone was looking at my notes.
Oh.
That is something as well. At almost every single episode, like clockwork, we get at least one pick that two of us end up choosing, or very, very close to it. It seems to be a thing. There's only been one episode when it's not happened, I think, out of 15.
Yeah, no, same thing. The introduction to that movie was also my second for Star Wars, for those reasons. Actually, for me, because you do have the first, that rebel ship, and it's huge, and you're like, wow, and then the Star Destroyer comes and it's enormous. Once you get that sense of scale, but the part that actually always stuck out to me is the rebels in the hall watching the door, and you see that look of just absolute apprehension on their face, because they know that something horrible is about to come breaching through that door. And you see this kind of this fear and trepidation as they're trying to hunker down in this little hall, and they know that this is about to be horrible. And they capture all of that with just a couple quick shots of expressions. And then when the door breaches, between when the door actually blows and the last of the Starlight Rebels run is 20 seconds. Like that whole scene of stormtroopers filing through the door, and like the lasers going back and forth, and the smoke-filled hallway, it is 20 seconds, and then Vader comes walking into the hall, and it's like so much was just jammed in there that it really. So yeah, that's actually my second pick. So
yeah, well, I know you've done an episode, Sally, about this, but what do you think of the stormtroopers' aims at all there?
Well, they're actually pretty good, because they actually breached through a door in 20 seconds, and when you look at it afterwards, there's only 2 stormtroopers lying on the floor. Well, you assume they're dead. They could just be injured, but they definitely had the harder job, because they're trying to get through a door that is being just fired at. You could literally have a guy just sitting there squeezing the trigger over and over again through the door and still hit people as they're funneling through it. They got through it in 20 seconds flat, which I timed it for that video, and it was like, wow, I had no idea it was that short of a time, because in my memory it was like, you remember every single shot as a separate thing, so you kind of remembered it like, oh yeah, that was like really long. No, and so they actually did a good job. I think a lot of people confuse plot armor with stormtrooper incompetence, But if you are not a hero, the stormtroopers are actually really, really accurate. If you're a hero, they're terrible. But
Very true, actually, yeah. Shall we go on to who's next again? Number 4 pick for Seth, I believe.
oh, for my Star Trek answer, it is Star Trek Generations. It was the introduction of the Borg Mother. Because I remember seeing that movie in theaters when it came out, and that to me was like one of the most. I don't know. It was just this like my God sort of scene for me. So that always stuck out, and I've always loved any time the Borg Mother pops up, but it all comes down to Generations. Was the first time I'd actually ever seen that happen, because it was in the new Picard and all that stuff, but. The reason I love it is it made me remember sitting in theaters in like what 95, 94 when that movie came out, and seeing that little twitchy spine before they set it into the Borg Mother's body. And that was absolutely creepy and alien and awesome.
That right there is my favorite Star Trek movie at all. It's it's actually First Contact. Is the one with the Borg Queen.
Yes. Generations was the one where they killed Kirk, but no,
First Contact, exactly that. Yeah. What a beautiful pick. I won't say too much more about that for now. Don't worry, I've not picked the same scene, but I might have the same movie in there. But love it, absolutely love it. You are right. It's just the atmosphere that comes from the first time you see her, the creepiness of it all. I mean, the makeup that they did for is Alice Krige, who's the actress, the actor playing
was
the Borg
one
Queen.
of them. I can't remember which one, but it Voyager or the film.
The makeup and the acting was second to none. It just, this powerful, creepy, perfect villain for me.
Yeah, and her coming in with that spine there, just basically from there, which is just
it's the cutout and what looks like the dress she's wearing. It's that's all there. It's not like there's any more in the suit. That literally is all of her. I loved it.
I think that's scary in itself if you just put that there and she didn't talk, or you knew they would assimilate you. That was it's iconic and scary in its own right. It's and I'm presuming you sounded like you had a Star Wars pick as well for that.
Oh no, you nailed it. Same one. Beginning. Mine was the guys in the hallway.
Oh, was sorry.
That's why whether you did it, it's like you're looking at my notes. I know what you're doing.
So in that case, I think we're on to Olympus next, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to Star Trek Generations for my next one. And there's so many scenes I could have picked from all of these, and I think I said earlier on, like this top 5 list will change tomorrow. It's probably, if I was to rethink it just now, it will half change right now, but I've locked it in. It's done. What I loved about Generations was Data truly starting to go on that journey of dealing with and experiencing emotions, processing them, and understanding how to live with them. This particular scene's a little bit of comic relief at a moment of quite a serious situation, as the saucer section is hit by the warp core breach in the drive section, and the saucer starts heading towards the planet, and you get a scene in the bridge behind me, and you just see it from behind Data as the planet starts looming up on the view screen, and it pans to Data, and he's just staring there, gripping onto his console, and all he says is, Oh,
Oopsie.
and literally that's the end of that scene. But it's just Brent Spiner absolutely nails all the emotions that Data's feeling there, and just encompasses that into that 2-word sentences. He just nails it. It's one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Completely agree, and that landing is still amazing. It's just the way, go catch the grass across the grass. It's on the sorry. When I say grass, I mean trees. Sorry, stuck on all the trees down there.
And again, it's that moment of scale, isn't it, where you truly see, probably for the first time, just how big the Enterprise D saucer section is compared to like a planet. I mean, it is destroying a forest as it crash lands. It's incredible to see.
Okay. Any thoughts, Seth, or are we reading your notes again?
No, I do remember it, but I also remember that one. Our question at the time was like, why didn't they just find an ocean and skip across it like a rock? It's like, it'd been a great opportunity to like just go right across an ocean, just ding 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 ding.
I'd never
Probably
thought of
wouldn't
that.
be comfortable then.
I never thought of that. That would have been brilliant.
I'd like that, Anna. That somewhere along the line, somebody to do a animation or something for that. Then you can have that one from the film with the whales. Sorry, I shouldn't really call it that, but where they all come out of the bird of prey and start swimming in the water.
Talking about favourite movies, that's my favourite movie from the original series characters is The Voyage Home. I love that. I think that was actually the first TOS movie I watched.
Oh,
the one with the whales.
Oh, yeah. I think mine was Insurrection. Back, I don't know if it's in America, but there's a thing called Sky TV, and it was the early stages of streaming pay-to-buy films and stuff like that on TV. And I probably got. Our parents weren't impressed that I ended up paying for that film a couple of times on their account when it came out. So.
The best Star Trek film is Wrath of Khan, and that is just the truth. I actually just recently watched some very long deep dive, and I think I watched several deep dives into Wrath of Khan, which I've got a couple moments from on my list. But that to me is just it's my favorite, especially because it ages very well.
Yeah.
It also pulls from the original show, and where you bring back this character from the original show, of just like kind of this follow up of what ends up happening to them, and his Ricardo Montalban's kind of like absolute determination. And they bring up there's a lot of, it's a very Shakespearean revenge story going on, but they bring up the Khan theme, his little theme music. One of the ones I watched talked about every time it is played in the movie, it actually slightly changes an octave, and it's very subtle. But by the end of the movie, it is like this full, like orchestral riff that they're doing. But at the very beginning, it's this faint little thing. I think that's when like they see them in the sand, and they realize they're on the wrong planet, sort of thing. And it's like the movie actually used a lot of very really cool film tricks to where they would like just play with the music and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna disagree with both of you. Best Star Trek is Wrath of Khan. Like, period. After that, we can all fight over second place.
It is a phenomenal movie. I'm not gonna deny that.
No argument. And I was tempted to put a scene from there on, but I'll explain that at the end. So I suppose it's back to me, actually, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Everybody's had their fourth pick. So again, I'm probably going to piece somebody off by going to The Last Jedi for my next pick. And this is Kylo Ren and Rey fighting against Stooks. I can't even get names right today. Yes, Snook's elite guard, the guys in all red. The beginning of this was split up with them cutting between escaping ships and Rey and Kylo and Snook. I can't even say his name right here. There, but we had a stink pot just after the start of the battle once they had assassinated him, was Ben and Rey fighting these Praetorian guards. They were, I'm going to just say, this was an amazing scene for me. This was just a fight scene. The choreography in it was unbelievable. The different weapons they had were great. I know if you put it in slow motion, you can see mistakes, but I don't care. I was watching it in the cinema at the time, and again, second time, the level of trust that Rey and Ben had in that scene up until the end, where it was just like they both wanted them to go, basically either to, Ben wanted them to, Kylo Ren wanted them to go, Rey to go to the dark side and help him on that side, and Rey wanted him to be on the light side, helping them and be redeemed. I just love watching that fight scene at the time, and it was just like you had that moment where they were starting to understand each other a little bit more, and then realized they didn't understand each other that much right at the end. It's just a great fight scene in my opinion. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, I'll be just saying, "Oh, that's great, that's brilliant."
It's a brilliant scene. I'm really glad you brought it up. And I'll add the comment on the different weapons of the Praetorian Guard, which were so creative. I remember one which started off as almost a solid sword and turned into some type of chain-linked whip, which was really creative. Which either Rey or Ben managed to use against them. And I also find that the death of I was going to say Snoke there. Sorry, the death of Snook. That is now his name forever. The death of Snook was almost, I didn't see it coming, so it was a nice little shock moment. And I just think that if you could have seen the Praetorian Guards' faces, I think they would have been comical. Just like, hang on, what just happened?
Yeah.
I think that was a brilliant scene to pick.
I always just wish that they had used the Force more.
Yeah,
during it.
that's a good shout.
Like throwing those guys around. I mean, like when you first see Kylo Ren, he does something you've never seen ever, and he stops a laser blast in the air. It just hovers there for like a ridiculous amount of time. And you never see this trick a single other time in the entire series. It was just like this, you had like a one-time use gag. So like you've got this guy who's just like ridiculously powerful. At where these guys come out of it's like, oh yeah, he should just be like blowing them across, through the walls. And so that was actually my big thing ever watching that. Like, this guy, they've pegged him up to being like some sort of just Superman level power with the Force. And yes, it's a neat sword fight and all, but come on, this guy could literally stop lasers in the air.
True. Yeah. No, you've got a good point, and it's like I've never thought about that because I literally just took it as it is, even though we talk about these things on a show. But yeah. Now
for mine, I actually did also choose another lightsaber battle. For me, it was the Phantom Menace, Darth Maul, Duel of the Fates intro, because I grew up watching Star Wars. That was more of the George Lucas was trying to emulate samurai films where they didn't actually do the flashy sword play in any of that. It was very like focused attacks. And then by the time the late 90s rolls around and we've kind of been introduced to more of wuxia style sword fighting instead of like the old style, like, Akira Kurosawa samurai film where it's very flashy and they pull in Ray Park. And so I remember we waited for this movie for so long, and then the door opens, there's Darth Ball who looks up from the hood, and Duel of the Fates starts playing. That is like, I went and saw that movie twice more, literally just for that scene. Like I wiped out most of the rest of that film. And when I remember Duel of the Fates, it is not chopped up where you go to the ground war with Jar Jar. Like my mind edits that out flawlessly. And I remember this is this one continuous fight because, and once again, they slow it down. They show like, no, he's swinging too high for it and all that. It's like, I don't care. This scene was the one where like the theater, I remember going absolutely bananas when that happened. And once again, you've got these Jedi, they're leaping 30, 40 feet. You've got the scene of, Darth Ball spins and grabs just a random widget on the ground and like slings it into a door lock as he's still twirling that staff. And it was just, that to me was the first time when the Phantom Menace happened that I was a child watching Star Wars, just eyes wide, jaw on the floor. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. So that was my lightsaber fight. Also my number 3.
Cool. Yeah. Can you keep to a theme there, Olympus, and have a fight, a lightsaber fight in there?
I might have
Duel
more
of the Fates still gives me chills.
Yeah. I might have more than one lightsaber fight. I think Seth's been reading my notes now, so I won't say much more on it. But apart from the fact that I totally agree, completely.
Now with Star Trek, I bet you brought up the Enterprise crashing. So I grew up watching the original show, and for me, it was the search for Spock, the Enterprise crashing.
Yeah.
Because that is now a trope. J.J. Abrams has that damn thing crash every 10 minutes. But when the search for Spock came out, we had never seen the Enterprise be destroyed. And it is this monumental, iconic thing, and they blow it up. And between you're seeing the plates along the saucer like blowing out, and then it cuts to them on the planet. They're looking up at that basically as at comet. If it's smoking as it's coming down. That was a very big moment. And once again, no one had seen that. Of like the concept that the Enterprise was gone, that doesn't happen. You don't destroy the Enterprise. It might be limping, it might be really just banged up, but it was gone. And it has that kind of emotional weight, which you can blow it up or destroy it or crash it as many mountains as you want. You will never have the first time ever again. And that was it. So that's my Star Trek number 3.
That plan to do swapsies on the ship was unbelievable. Actually, I like that, and it was just like I don't think they've done anything directly like that before. Before, and yeah, you have them trying to work out what the English is going over the Tannoy, and then it's like, oh, it's a countdown. Damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, that movie was kind of amazing because you've got Christopher Lloyd playing the head of the Klingons here. This guy's a comedian. When you look at his roles, he'd done there's a mega show called Taxi that he had done for a while. Other audiences know him as Doc Brown from the Back to the Future stuff. He's this comedic actor who just played the most ruthless, evil son of a bitch, and just down and dirty evil Klingon so well. But when you think about like what else has that actor done? He's a comedy actor, and a lot of comedy actors are also. I actually really believe that comedians are usually the best actors because they have to be able to do a lot of stuff to set up jokes. Whether they're playing the straight man or anything like that, they have to actually be really amazing actors, but it's very hard for them to get a break. Yeah, that's why it took Tom Hanks forever before anybody realized, like, oh, he actually can act. But before he had done all these comedies, Robin Williams was the same way. And I think for him, they just had to completely bury him under all this makeup. That way people wouldn't look at him and be like, oh, it's that guy that's always so funny all the time. I can't take him seriously. So I think he just nailed that role. But I always just find it kind of funny. He's a comedian, and he had made he gotten quite famous just doing comedic roles. And here he was playing just the most ruthless evil son of a bitch ever.
And he played him so well. And you're right, it wasn't until long after I watched it for the first time, years before I realised that was Christopher Lloyd. I had no idea until a long time afterwards. He played that evil Klingon so well.
Yeah, sometimes you hear that voice, you still hear like Marty. You're like, what? Like, yeah. Oh my God! Under all that makeup, it's Doc Brown. Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know if I was spoiled already because I didn't watch that film until probably 25 years after the film happened. So I think I probably already knew it was Doc Brown, and probably because I'm this side of the Atlantic from you, I didn't realise. I didn't realise he had done comedian stuff. I didn't realise he was a comic. So.
No, except he, and I can't remember. He did. I think he was involved in the creation of the Klingon language. I think it was him. Those were the ones that, because before they only spoke gobbledygook. But the search for Spock is where they actually made a Klingon language. That's how I'm remembering it. It was also part of like when you watch that movie, the Klingons are speaking what is recognized as Klingon, versus before they were just random noises that the actors were kind of doing.
Oh, yeah. Half of me's glad they end up coming up with an official language for the Klingons, and the other half of me is going, "Oh God, is this over the top?" No, it probably isn't. To be honest, I'm a Star Trek fan, so yeah, I'm glad they actually done that. So yeah, and I loved it in Discovery when for the first season, they actually had Klingon translations for the series. I think it was too much effort for the rest of it because I don't think they did it again.
Are you talking about the subtitles that are actually in the Klingon writing? Is that what you're talking about?
I think so. I think it was in Klingon. I can't remember if it was in Klingon writing or not. I cannot remember.
There were points that it was, and then I think I might be remembering this wrong, but the very first episode of season 1, I'm sure they start off with it's them talking Klingon and it's English, and then they switch it in this very clever cinematographic way. That's not a word. Cinematic way. They change it round, and all of a sudden, the Klingons talking English, but the writing is in Klingon. It was very, very nice how they did that. Sorry, total digression from what we're meant to be talking about, but it was cool.
Oh no.
Anyway, I think it's number 3 pick for Olympus because I've run out. Unless I want to go on to Back to the Future.
I could talk about that trilogy all day long as well. By the way, we should probably do a special episode on that because that's brilliant. So my number 3 is from Star Trek First Contact. It is not the Ball Queen, as much as that is on my honourable mentions. It's the very, very start of the movie. So I think this was probably one of the last movies I can think of that had the credit sequence at the start. So it ends the credit sequence and jumps straight into Picard in his classic Next Generation outfit in a Borg alcove and it sort of zooms out. And once again, we've got a theme going here, actually, guys. The size, the scale of the Borg ship he's in is very, very adamant as it keeps zooming out from him, and you just see how tiny he is in that sea of Borg drones. So it's clearly, in your head, you're thinking this is back when he was assimilated and became Locutus. It cuts through a few scenes, including one where he's saying, "I'm Locutus of Borg, resistance is futile." And then he wakes up in his ready room, and he goes over to his mirror, sort of wets his face, looks in the mirror, and you just see this thing running around the inside of his cheek, and then it bursts out a bit like a sort of flashback to Alien. It bursts out his face and latches on this metal didgeridoo something or other. And it's just this really shocking moment that makes you jump, because you know it's coming because you can see it, but you can't help but jump at it. And then he wakes up for real to the sound of his communicator on his office desk, and you see his screen sort of raising up. He goes over to it. Authorization Picard 47 Alpha Tango. Opens it up. It's the Admiral on a secure line. The Borg are here, and Picard's just like, yes, I know, the Borg. I just love that intro sequence, and again, it's probably because I love the Borg so much. They do it so in such a creepy, sinister way. It sets up the enemy for the movie right at the start. If you've watched TNG, you know the history that Picard has with them and his feelings about them, and yet it's just a brilliant way to kick off the movie in my eyes. It's always a scene sequence that I remember.
No, I do like that one scene as well. I probably enjoy the rest of the film a lot more, the battle when Worf appears, but I think that actually did set it up.
Another one of my
well.
honourable mentions was Worf on the Defiant bashing the console. Perhaps today is a good day to die. Ramming speed. It's like he wants to do it, and then he hears the Enterprise is coming, and he sort of looks up like, oh.
No honourable death this time.
Oh, and then Riker, tough little ship, and Worf's like, little? You do remember how to fire phasers. There's so many good scenes you can pick from that movie. There really is.
Yeah. There is. Love it. Seth, any thoughts?
No, but I agree. But mostly, I always just love the. I love Worf jokes because I loved what they did to him on Picard, but I also just love when they talk about Worf always gets his ass kicked because he's supposed to be was always supposed to be the example of he's the greatest fighter ever. So every time a bad guy shows up to show off how powerful they are, they kick Worf's ass.
Yeah.
So from the audience's point of view, he's a guy who just professionally gets his ass kicked all the time, because every time they have to show how powerful and tough the bad guy is by beating Worf up. And it's like, you're not really selling this like he's like such a great warrior if you keep overusing the fact that they beat him up as your way of demonstrating that. Sorry.
It's a very good point.
Actually, why have I not got a Worf thing on here? I cannot believe it. And while we're on him, the way this one's actually the only time where there's a legitimate reason why he turns up. The rest of the times when he comes onto the films, because he's technically staff crew on Deep Space Nine at the time.
Nemesis is for Troy and Riker's wedding.
Yes,
that's a valid reason.
I forgot about that. Yeah, actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I can't remember why he was there in Insurrection. That's a good point. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, you can't have a TNG movie without Worf being there.
No,
you just can't do it.
No, you have to come up with a reason to bring because otherwise, the fans are like, "Whoa, where's Worf?" So if you do it without the character, everyone would just be mad. Just because you have to have it. It's kind of like why why Chekhov shows up in Wrath of Khan.
Yeah,
because they say, you can't do it without having Chekhov there. So we're going to come up with a really roundabout way so we can get Chekhov back on the crew, because he has to be there.
And Sulu in the Undiscovered Country, because he's captaining the Excelsior by that point,
Yeah.
but they still managed to get him back in for it, because you
They're
can't
all
do
like,
it without Sulu.
We have to have Sulu. He has to be here. And even though we have written in this story how these people have all moved up and been promoted, they're all this thing. Like probably the first trick for a writer is like, how in the hell do we get all these people on the bridge? Because that's what the fans are coming to see, is that crew on the bridge.
No, completely agree. And it's like, but it just makes me giggle occasionally when it is, and it's like they do that. But anyway, where are we on the picks front?
We are on number 2 with Benkno.
Oh, in that case, let's stay with the Excelsior and the Undiscovered Country.
Ooh.
That scene at the beginning got me completely interested, and when you suddenly have this explosion in space, which we find out is Praxis exploding, and then we go to the Excelsior with Sulu at the I was about to say the helm on the captain's seat with his cutlery for the Excelsior, and the way it suddenly vibrates while he's having a conversation with one of his crew, and it falls onto the ground. It's just like, what is that? It's the explosion of one of their moons. And another reason I do like this, because I run a Star Trek Adventures game, and on one of our seasons, they decided to pick an Excelsior as the ship of choice for them. And actually, one of my players was a captain for there. And I think he played on that and actually loved his tea and brought some, not personally brought some cutlery, but the captain had, as the ship, had his own cutlery, which always handed out on when they were doing briefings. So it's got that extra little bit of love for me, even though 5 years ago I would have probably not had that love for it. So, and even though I lived through the period that this is playing on, I don't remember it, and I am interested in history of like the Cold War and stuff like that, and this is definitely a play on Chernobyl going up and the breakup of the Soviet Union and stuff like that. I know there's a big issue over there at the moment, and I'm not going to go into that, but I'm still interested in the history of Europe and how that happens and stuff like that. So, and yeah, this plays on it very well. Any other one?
Yeah. I mean, phenomenal pick. I absolutely love that scene. And what I love even more is that in Voyager, they go back to it with Tuvok. And I love how they play that, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Tim Russ was on that bridge in the Undiscovered Country. So it's almost, as much as he's got round ears on in the movie, I think, the fact that they bring him back and say Tuvok was there for it in his first stint in Starfleet and kind of make that canon, I absolutely love. And the way they were able to cinematically do what they did for that. I know I'm talking TV show a little bit here, but it just added even more to that scene in the movie, which I absolutely love. And yeah, the whole I know you talk about the whole sort of linking to history and whatnot, because it was a particular topic. The Undiscovered Country. One of my honourable mentions is the whole sequence where you've got Kirk and his crew on one side of a table and all the Klingons on the other, sitting to dinner trying to play nice, and then one of the I think it was a Klingon security officer goes, yeah, whatever. I can't remember the start of the quote, but it's blah 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 blah. We need breathing room, and Kirk just comes up with Earth Hitler 1938. And the silence and the stunned reaction. I beg your pardon, because at least one of the Klingons understood what they were saying. was just the way they played that tension so well. Yeah, I love that, and of course it set up what was about to happen in the coming sequence. But yeah, I've digressed again. I'm sorry.
Can I say
love
you
it.
haven't watched Shakespeare until you've listened to it in its original Klingon?
Yes, I've still to find Shakespeare in the original Klingon as well. I've not been able to find it yet, but I definitely recommend it because they did.
Did well. Any thoughts, Seth?
Oh no, actually, it was just a good scene. Was the peace talks. So no, I was like, no, it was really good. For my, I guess, number 4 or 2, whatever way we're counting down, which is weird. Is actually I listed them in different orders. So like Star Wars, I started one with, I guess, what was my 5th, and then I did the other way. So I'm like, oh crap, I keep getting this. For I guess it would be as the second favorite scene then for Star Wars. When I was 21, I watched the original trilogy again, because I think that's all I had. But from the point of view of, I tried to fool myself into believing I'd never seen it before, because I was trying to remove nostalgia from it. Like when you've seen a movie countless times, especially since you were a kid, you could just keep watching it over and over and over again. You actually kind of lose that perspective of what it is. Every time you watch it, you're still like a kid watching it, right? So I watched the original trilogy, trying to convince myself like I had never seen this before. And Empire Strikes Back, the Han Solo I know scene, actually got me to choke up, which is weird because I had probably seen that movie 30 times, but I had always kind of kept that way, like as a kid watching it, versus you're an adult, you understand that conversation between them in a different perspective of how they've always been giving each other crap at all of this. That Leia, I love you, and Han's just, I know, got this profound emotional reaction from me that had never happened once in my life, of all the times I'd seen it. So that's my choice for that one, is that just kind of experiment of like, I'm going to try to convince myself I don't know every line of dialogue as they're delivering it, and just try to watch this from new eyes.
Sorry, go on, Seth. No, I can't remember what I was going to say. I've completely lost my train of thought there. No, go on, Seth.
Then for Star Trek, which I already mentioned this one earlier, it's the Wrath of Khan. It's the chase through the nebula that's done almost like a submarine World War II sort of battle, as they're both blind. And you have Khan is hunting for the Enterprise. So the Enterprise is just absolutely throttled because of they got, they've just been pounded. And so you have that scene of the two ships kind of blindly circling each other, and you can kind of see one go, and then the other one kind of like far below it, as they're trying to find each other in that. So the tension of that scene was very well done. And also, once you start like watching some of the deep dives, they go like how they use the music and all that. I was like, oh yeah, I love this scene even more. But it's my second favorite for Star Trek.
I haven't probably given Wrath of Khan what it deserves, to be honest. But when I did watch it, I did love that scene. So like, the almost the Red October, sort of like space.
Yeah. Very much like an old sub movie. And Red October was another one where it's like you were amazed at how tense you can be during those types of scenes. And Red October was another one that just captured it. It was absolutely terrifying. Which Like at no point had I ever thought sub combat was absolutely just terrifying until the first time I saw it in October. And it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And those like one hit, so that's all it takes. It's not like you can like pummel them over and over again. It's like just one hit. That's all it takes. So they're charging to the torpedoes.
Yeah, and I live so close to a Navy port, one of the UK's Navy ports over here. It's like, and I've been on one of the subs, and I should probably appreciate that a lot more, but I probably don't. But yeah, I probably wouldn't want to be in one of those for a long period of time. God knows how much feet under, or in a spaceship in a battle when whenever it goes up, there's nowhere to go.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. I think it's Olympus's go then, unless you've got any other thoughts on that.
Just again, equally, I don't think I've given Wrath of Khan the love it deserves here. I've got one honourable mention which I'll come to later. I won't give them all up just now, but it's a phenomenal movie, and yeah, love both those choices that you provided there, Seth. Thank you. My number 2 is going to be quick because it's already been brought up. Duel of the Fates. It's the majority of that sequence, similar to you, Seth. I was watching it in the theatre as a kid, and my jaw was just hitting the floor from the moment that Maul unleashes the second half of his lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
Onwards.
Da, da, da. You're like, it's the most amazing thing you'd ever seen in your life. I was 21 or 20 or something, and like we were just like, the whole theater went bananas.
Yeah. I mean, and that.
And then you cut to Jar Jar, and you're like, get back to the good part.
Yeah. So why are you cutting this up here? Don't do that to me. I want to see what's going on with the ultimate epic battle.
No. I mean, pretty much it's just like go back to the. And it cuts back, and that's playing. It's just like, it's the most incredible thing ever. So my memory has just spliced it together as one continuous scene.
Mine's has been the same to the point that whenever I watch The Phantom Menace, I get let down because they keep cutting it up. The acting again is absolutely phenomenal from all three actors. Liam Neeson's an absolute god in his own right. Ewan McGregor, and then I feel terrible, but the guy playing Maul, I can't remember the actor's name.
Ray Park.
Thank you. Ray Park was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But between the choreography and the sequences that they're going through during that battle, and then John Williams flipping with all that music, just creating an inferno around him as he's playing, it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's one of my all-time favorite sequences in, forget Star Trek, Star Wars, just in all movies.
Oh no!
Very few times I've felt like that.
I remember we're all watching this movie. We're trying our best to like it. We're just trying our best, just active will, and then that scene happens, and people are like, "What do you think? It was amazing." And then you go back and watch it. Like, I don't remember any of this movie except for I'm just waiting for that Darth Maul scene again. So that's literally how I watched that movie so many times. Was I just blocked everything else out? It was just, I will sit in a theater for this one scene that has been chopped up. And I will just watch that, and the rest of the time I will just kind of put my brain into standby mode of I'm waiting for that scene to come back. So
it's like, I know who now's in this, who's in the what now? No, none of that nonsense. Let's just get some more.
Racing pods. What's going on? Let's go get some popcorn or something. We still have we still have like 30 minutes before the Duel of Fates comes on, so we can go get some extra drinks.
Yep, the first 75% of the movie, you're just getting the snacks and everything ready for the big moment.
This is what people used to hate about before the sequels came out. So,
and that's the thing in the sequel, the prequels. Certainly at the point in time that they were out until Episode 3. They did not get the love that they deserved. There are some phenomenal points through episodes 1 and 2. There really, really are. And similar with the sequels, they're not might not be everyone's cup of tea at the moment, but there are some brilliant moments through those 3 movies, which are absolute Star Wars pivotal moments.
Agreed. I don't have much more to add to that, to be honest. Between the two of you, you've given out the love that deserves, to be honest.
Yeah. So Ben, then on to your last pick.
Oh,
What have you got for us?
So I've got the next episode on the next film, episode 2, and this is the Battle of Coruscant. So you've got this is where the fun begins. I think it's is it episode 3? I think I've done that last time. Yeah,
You
episode
did.
3. I did that last time we did this. I always go episode 2. I don't know why. It's episode 3, Battle of Coruscant, where literally you are chasing around the Star Destroyers, lots of droids, little ships, and you've got this interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin. It's trying to get to save Senator. Was he senator at the time, or was he? He wasn't.
Chancellor by that point.
Chancellor, yeah.
Supreme Chancellor.
Yeah, Chancellor Palpatine. I'm going to just call him Palpatine. It is Palpatine. And I can't remember all the specific moments. I'm sure somebody will help me in a minute. But I like trying to get the buzz droid. Was it buzz droids?
Yep.
Little, off the wings. Anakin's trying to do that, and it's like, no, that wasn't a good plan. I'll try something else now. And again, the back and forth and the landing on the ship, the Star Destroyer there, when they're sliding in, Obi-Wan jumping straight out and Anakin taking his time to get out, so make sure he pokes Ryle. Just was fun. I haven't done this justice completely at all. I just remember loving it. Whenever I watch it, I forget to take notes or anything like that. So it's
I'll help.
Enjoy it.
I will help.
That was a scene that the dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan is the first time I really had a sense of like buddies. Because when you got to go back and it's like you had the original Alec Guinness Obi-Wan talking about, he was like this good friend and blah blah blah, but that was the first time that you get the sense of they're buddies, and they've got the really good dialogue going on between them as they're doing the assault and everything. So that was, I said, I actually, by law I'm required to loathe the prequels, but that was one of the moments, because they steadily got better, because that was the first one where I actually wanted to like go home and like immediately start the next one and the series. Like I want to watch Star Wars again because it really captured it, and that banter during that whole thing to be felt like Star Wars, but also like this is they're friends, they're buddies. This isn't just master and student sort of thing. They're best friends.
Yeah. Brothers.
Great.
Brothers that get on.
Oh yeah.
The other bit I'll add again, and I've said it before, we've got a little bit of a theme with some of these picks going on as well, is the sheer scale of that battle above Coruscant that you get to see right at the start of the movie. You get this beautiful moment at the start where the two Jedi starfighters are sort of zooming in and out between each other. It's almost side by side, quite symmetrical. Then they bring up, shields up, down they go, and it just opens up to utter chaos below them. You see the size of all these massive ships going at it with each other, trying to blow each other up. With the planet below them, it's epic, absolutely epic. One of my favorite opening sequences from any of the movies. And again, I'll mirror what you guys have said too. The camaraderie and the sort of best friend feeling that you get from Anakin and Obi-Wan at last at the start of that episode is brilliant. I said episode, movie, and you feel. You feel that throughout the movie, and you see it starting to tense up a little bit the further you get through it. But it's lovely to see, and it's something which the Clone Wars do a brilliant job of sort of keeping in place too, when they finally introduce that TV series.
you know, this is basically all what you've said is the reasons I've loved it. The chatter, which even continued when they were going down the lift shaft, trying to escape with Anakin with Obi-Wan over his shoulder, or over his shoulders. Yeah, loved it. So,
Whoa, did I miss something?
yeah, yeah. In that case, what is Seth's number one pick or picks?
Star Wars Rogue One, Vader in the Hall.
Mm-hmm.
That is the scene that everybody has wanted to see forever, of just how damned terrifying Vader is. So that moment where they look up at the darkness, the door's not opening, and the lightsaber shows up. Yeah, I've heard all the criticisms, like he must have walked out there with his hand over the buttons. For all this dramatic stuff, it's like, I don't care. That emotional gut reaction that everybody just doing that, like, oh shit, and go get the door open, and he just lays waste, and you see guys flying up, hitting the ceiling, guns flying out of their heads. It's not just the lightsaber. This guy is this force of nature, just marching straight up the hall, doesn't slow down. And every time you've always heard Darth Vader is so scary. Darth Vader is so scary. And all you've ever seen him do is he walks through a door after the stormtroopers have already cleared it, and he marches and he looks menacing. But that's the first time you finally got to see on film. This is a
Oopsie.
monster that is just unstoppable. Oh my God, yeah, that was it. I loved. But a lot of fans hated Rogue One. I loved Rogue One. And that was one of those moments for me. That was just jaw on the floor. I am 5 years old, and just in absolute awe. So Star Wars, that was it. That was my number one. Sweet Jesus, this is good moment.
It's I absolutely agree that the most terrifying moment of Vader that you ever see, and I loved every single nanosecond of it. It's I don't mean to play the rest of the movie down, but that was the best part of the movie for me, was that. And there were so many brilliant moments in that movie. I've said in multiple episodes before as well that when I first watched that movie, I think it had been hyped up so much that I was let down watching it for the first time. And a year later, it took me 1 year before I revisited it. And when I watched it that year later, I felt like I was watching a totally different movie. And I just appreciated it in such a different way. It's one of my favorites in the series now.
It is my favorite of the post-Disney purchase of Lucasfilms. Like, hands down, my favorite of them all. And I remember when they were hyping it up. My only thought the whole time is, they better all die. This is going to be a dirty dozen. Like, they're making it look like it's going to be the Dirty Dozen. Well, spoiler, if you're going to do like the Dirty Dozen or Seven Samurai or all that, they don't all come walking out of that. That's what I got. And so I was like, oh, I was so happy. I loved when they used the sound from like the original Red Squadron when they did the thing, and you recognize those voices of the pilots coming, because this is pre-New Hope. This is when those were their best fighter jocks, and it's like they definitely use like some old takes of them delivering their lines. So it's not exactly the same as it was that you've heard a million times over your whole life, but you do know those voices that are delivering those lines. And so I actually loved that movie, but that moment when Vader showed up was just like, oh my God, just so yeah, that was my like kind of the theater, like, yeah, because he was just an unstoppable monster at this perfect. Because you always heard he was supposed to be, but you've never actually seen it. It's kind of like the first Star Wars, the fight with Obi-Wan, where they are just like two guys just kind of clacking some sticks together, when you compare that to what like when like Darth Maul fight scenes, when cinema had started doing more of the flashy stuff, it's like Vader really isn't that scary, and he just came back and took that crown, and it's like so perfect.
Yeah, I know when I went to the cinema to watch it, as soon as I got home, it was probably 11 o'clock, maybe even near the midnight by the time I got home. It was I wanted to put it on A New Hope straight away and watch it after and see the continuity. I was so buzzing at the end that so I wanted to watch them back to back, or near as damn it back to back. It's
Star Trek, Death Spock.
Yeah, saw that coming.
Death Spock. Once again, yeah, people give Shatner so much crap. I've done my fair share of Shatner jokes, but yeah, this actually is a very classically trained Shakespearean stage actor who just somehow ended up in a space western. But I think the performances from Shatner and Nimoy are outstanding. Then following up with the eulogy scene of his voice cracking when he says human. But the scene of Spock through the glass at the absolute devastation on Kirk's face that his best friend is dying. Top notch. Now, I also blame that for the movie thing of like no one's ever really dead anymore. I really actually root that all back down to Spock. I mean, if you really want to get further on it, would be Sherlock Holmes, but cinema-wise, especially when it comes to genre, sci-fi fantasy, it really, really was like that moment when they did bring him back afterwards, because you had this gut-wrenching scene that all of a sudden was like, oh, no one dies. But at the time, they didn't even know. The actors didn't even know if they were ever going to do these roles again, and if this was the actual send-off to the character. They did it beautifully. Everything about that scene is just emotionally perfect. So, and it when they did the switcheroo in the JJ one, I was actually really pissed, because it's like, you guys are really, this is like an SNL sketch of an amazing scene, and you are trying to dance in its corpse sort of treatment of it, because they didn't have that relationship. You didn't have all the years of the Kirk and Spock dichotomy that you had with, especially those actors being the ones that did it. All the years and all the adventures and whatnot. Those characters are supposed to have had a lifetime together, versus JJ's, where it's like, oh yeah, we've known each other a while, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and we're supposed to give that. Which is also the JJ Spock is like, Worf always gets his ass kicked. JJ Spock is the most emotional character in the history of Star Trek, because it was like, oh, he's always stoic, so we're always going to make him like flip out. But the original Kirk Spock death, Wrath of Khan, best moment in all Star Trek.
Yeah, I remember watching that film, and I knew Spock was alive because I'd watched TNG before, and I'd seen him in that, so I know he was alive. But it still got on my heartstrings there when that happens. That I will always be your friend, and it's just, I know I didn't do the quote properly there, but yeah, it was an emotional wrench to the heart there, even though I knew he was coming back, and there was a film called Search for Spock. So yeah, it's
and I saw Search for Spock first. So that was the one that I owned on VHS. I've seen that one the most. Then it wasn't until later on that I got to see with the part where he died, and then all of a sudden it's like Christy Alley is in this other role, and it's like, that's wrong, because I was actually used to the replacement actress, because I'd seen the sequel so many times, and I'm like, that's not her. So
I keep forgetting they're the same character. Whenever I see it,
they should have just changed the character. I think it was a mistake trying to say it was the same character, because it just didn't work.
I can't add anything more. Just yeah, you've summed it up absolutely brilliantly.
I suppose this gets to the final pick of the final picks, and I think the decider of the scores.
So where Duel of Fates is by far the coolest and probably most exciting lightsaber battle of all time. The one that had me most emotional, most gut wrenched was the duel on Mustafar between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I think the entire sequence, start to finish, was brilliant. They chop it up again like they do in Episode 1. But at least it's not chopped up with Jar Jar Binks, so that's not so bad. Instead, it's Yoda and Sidious, which again is a pretty cool sequence in its own right. But part of me almost feels like you maybe lose a little bit of the impact of the Duel of Mustafar because they did that. So it's another one of those scenarios where I take the splice of the Duel of Mustafar and just bunch it all together in my mind and just picture the entire thing like that. But you're really watching two brothers almost fighting to the death. And it hits hard because I think they build their relationship in Revenge of the Sith so perfectly that you really do feel that betrayal and that hurt towards the end. And the other thing I love about it is the choreography is absolutely stellar. Between the two of them, I believe it was both actors that did the entire sequence themselves. They trained for ages. So it's Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen doing the entire thing. And there's at least 3 different points. I've micro studied this sequence. There are at least 3 different points where Obi-Wan has Anakin in a single swoop. He has him, and he hesitates and doesn't do it because he doesn't want to lose him. Which I think just adds to the full emotion around it. And then you've got that just before the lightsaber battle kicks off, you've got that great sequence between the two of them where I'm not going to try and re-quote it because I'll muck it up somewhere because I'm too into this now, but where Anakin's talking about bringing peace, justice, security to his new empire, and Obi-Wan's like, your new empire. And then there's this lovely irony which I never really thought of at the time when Obi-Wan says, only a Sith deals in absolutes. I'll do what I must. And I sit back there. At the time I thought, oh. And now I sit back as an adult and I'm watching and I go, you've just used an absolute. But no, yeah, that's my number one sequence. As I say, Duel of Fates is so cool, so stunning. It's so difficult to choose between the two of them. That's probably the two that would switch in and out quite a bit. But from an emotional standpoint, it's got to be the Duel of Mustafar. And again, the musical score is phenomenal. John Williams, as he always says, just bats it out of the park.
No, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you picked that. I didn't do a prediction for you, but I'm sure if I did, that would have probably been on there. But where it was an emotional ride, that fight when we got to it, and I didn't really, to be honest, I almost feel Obi-Wan at the end is a bit cruel by leaving him just there. But
kind of, I can see where you're coming from. It is kind of, I kind of see it as almost he just doesn't have the heart to finish him off. But in a way, that's even
every
crueler.
Single person that Darth Vader kills from that moment forward is Obi-Wan's fault.
Yeah. It really, yeah, you can definitely see that. And again, the watching the Obi-Wan series, which I really enjoyed because Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars character. Seeing some of Vader's revenge through that series is particularly interesting.
I blocked that series out. I was not. No.
I was jarred at the
I
start
did
of
not
it.
like it.
I was jarred at the start of it, seeing how disconnected the Obi-Wan character was from where he was at the end of Revenge of the Sith. I wasn't too sure where they were going to go for it. The way they turned it around, and I could see him reconnecting, I could accept it for what it was. But I think it was part of the nostalgia and the fact that I was seeing my favourite Star Wars character again and seeing his story continue. I think that's what I loved about that.
You can enjoy it. It was not my cup of tea. Right?
It's no Andor, I'll give you that.
Andor, I think, would have been better, and this is my controversial opinion on Andor. If you took the entire runtime, if you spliced it all together into one single 10 hours or whatever it is, and you cut an hour and a half out of it. I think, because I think the actual overall pacing was off, where they would really, parts of it felt like it was bloated.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think if you actually trimmed that entire thing down by about an hour and a half out of that 10 hours or whatever it is, it would have been even better. Because there are certain parts where it just went too long, and it would kind of start losing me, and it'd go back to being great, but then it would kind of start losing me. It's like, if you just had an editor going in there and being like, yeah, instead of a 5-minute scene of this, why don't we make it 30 seconds? And we can really savor more of the stuff, like that whole speech about everything he's given up, which is just brilliant and wonderful, and I loved it. But a lot of that show, I think, could have been just surgically trimmed, and with a good editor, been even better.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, for somebody who watched it all in one go, because for whatever reason I didn't watch it as each episode came out, and probably somebody who's not got the longest attention span in the world, but at least to do a whole season of a show, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. It was just like, yeah, I was seeing halfway through. It's just like, I'm tired now. I probably should have gone to bed, to be honest, and just but that's a different story.
That is a case of the streaming bug, where they try to take a story and do it in the streaming format. I think they're trying to follow the 3-act pacing, which Hollywood has perfected over 2-hour movies. But when you're trying to stretch it out over an 8 or 10-hour thing, I think a lot of them kind of struggle with some of the pacings on it. What's funny though is my example of the best way to actually ever do streaming pacing ever. Instead of it being like 3 episodes before you learn to like this show or learn who the characters are, the best ever was The Mandalorian, episode 1, season 1. If you watch that, it's a 30-minute episode, and in that 30 minutes, he shows up at a bar, picks the guy up, gets an amazing fight. Then he gets attacked by an ice monster trying to get off the planet. That was great. And then he goes to another planet. You go to another bar. You beat a guy. That's cool. Then he gets this other job, and next thing you know, we're off and we're meeting Werner Herzog, and that was awesome. And then we go and meet this cult that he's in, and they're all living down the sewers, and this is the way. And like, that was crazy. And then he goes to this planet. You meet Nick Nolte, who's like this Spoken guy. And then you have this battle with this droid, and the droid's torso is spinning around, shooting all these people. That's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And then you go in, and the cutest Muppet in the history of the universe sticks its head out of a crib, and it's like, oh my God, and he shoots the droid. And you're like, that was 30 minutes. And you just told what everybody else took 2 hours to tell me. Like, there was not an ounce of fat on that show. And by the end of it, you are 100% invested in this character and in the story and everything. There wasn't we'll give it 2 1-hour episodes before we actually bother to introduce what the conflict of this is. No, Mandalorian came in, went for the throat, because they're introducing a new character and they weren't relying on that nostalgia of, oh, we don't need to give you a reason to like Obi-Wan because you already love Obi-Wan. This was like, okay, we got to give you a reason to think this guy's the greatest character that's ever lived, like in 1 minute, and they did it, and it's perfect. They did streaming now. The show after that might have had its hiccups, but that first season to me was like the absolute pinnacle of how you do that type of storytelling, where it was just tight and amazing. Sorry, I love the first season of Mandalorian so damn much.
I couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. Absolutely.
I wish I could find a point to argue on you there, but generally I agree because I'm still watching it despite, as you said, the hiccups that have gone along. So, but
I love that show.
anyway, shall we round off our picks and then we're going to the scores and outros, I suppose.
Sounds
So-
good. Ben, why don't you round off your top
Oh.
5 for us?
Oh yeah, because I went first this time, didn't I? So
You did.
I had number 5. Had Finn arriving at Uncle Pat's, whatever it is, location, town, village, in The Force Awakens. And at number 4, I had the start of A New Hope, was the ships and Darth Vader entering. And then at number 3, I had the battle with Kylo Ren and Rey versus the Praetorian Guard. And then we had the undiscovered country with the Praxis blowing up. And then at number 1, we had the start of episode 3, the Battle of Coruscant, or the long stop for that. I suppose Seth next.
Indeed.
Okay, well, started off, it was Empire Strikes Back, the AT-ATs, Battle of Hoth. Then from there, we had, what was this? The Door Breach, New Hope.
Yes.
The beginning battle there. That one followed by Darth Maul battle. What's it called? The Duel of the Fates scene.
Yeah.
Followed up with Empire Strikes Back. I know. The I Love You, I Know, as Han is getting lowered into carbonite. And my top scene is Rogue One, Vader in the hallway.
Absolutely lovely. And then mine, we had Kirk meets Bones in Star Trek 2009. Then Data reacting to the impending crash in Star Trek Generations, followed by the intro scene to Star Trek First Contact when Picard's dreaming of the Borg. Then you had Duel of the Fates again from Star Wars The Phantom Menace, rounding off with Obi-Wan and Anakin's duel on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. So on that point, honourable mentions, because I think we've scattered a few throughout the episode, but did we have any extras? So I'll kick off with you again, Ben.
One of the ones that I wanted to pick, but I decided it was too sad, was the death of Spock. So I've just decided not to put it in there because it was sad. To be honest, I don't have much else, to be honest. I'm just quickly looking over my list.
I said that was my top one for Star
Yeah.
Trek.
Yeah.
Not just that, it was brilliant.
No, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was brilliant and sad at the same time for me, anyway. Yeah, to be honest, I think that's. To be honest, I've got nothing else. To be honest, I don't know why.
No problem. No problem
Usually
at
go
all.
along this.
Yeah, I've changed it this time. I've got a longer list too. But Seth, did you have any other honourable mentions that you wanted to bring up?
No, that was like literally mine. Was I even had a note though that is like talk about Mandalorian season 1, episode 1. So boom, got it.
Yeah.
So
Happy days. That means it's now the Olympus hour. No, not quite. Don't worry, I won't keep us for now. So I had quite a few honourable mentions here. I had the scene in First Contact where Riker, Troy, and Cochrane are sitting at a bar. There's a beautiful scene between Troy, who is very, very drunk by this point because she found Zefram Cochrane, and what she didn't realise is he was a man who loved his alcohol, and she had to accept 3 glasses of tequila before she could actually figure out that he was Zefram Cochrane before the drinks continued. So seeing Diana Troy very drunk was very funny. She played that very, very well. Another one for First Contact is when Riker finds out that Joy de la Forge told Cochrane about the statue, which kind of sends Cochrane on a bit of a spiral, and he tries to run away. Star Trek Generations. This is a Star Trek theme by the sounds of it, but Star Trek Generations, Data's Life Forms song on the bridge. Life Forms. Beautiful. YouTube it, guys, if you haven't watched it before. It's perfection from Data. I've already mentioned The Undiscovered Country, Earth Hitler 1938 quote. Then you had Revenge of the Sith when they're trying to crash land another starship. So this one's crash landing onto Coruscant. And all of a sudden half the ship disappears. Obi-Wan turns around to Anakin and says, "Not to worry, we're still flying half a ship." That was comedy genius in the middle of a very serious situation again. You have Palpatine gripping onto a chair at the same time, sort of looking around, going, "Have I actually planned this out right this time, or am I about to die?" So that was a bit of a gamble on his part that paid off, I guess. Then, of course, you had the very, very classic quote to Obi-Wan that you finally hear for the first time in the trilogy when he lands behind General Grievous and goes, "Hello there," which we last heard from Alec Guinness. So that was beautiful scene to hear. And I will wrap all of my honourable mentions off, or up, I should say. I'll wrap them all up with a scene from The Wrath of Khan, which is when Chekhov and his captain get pinned on that planet and have those nasty little critters dig into their brains. Which again, it's a gruesome scene, which I think they play very beautifully. And again, Khan does this super sinister villain with it. You just get this whole, the atmosphere that he generates and they generate through their fear coming through. It was just beautiful. So yeah, they are my honourable mentions.
I just realised one thing we have not mentioned is Khan.
Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
I did mention at some point, "You Klingon bastards have killed my son."
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about, actually, I don't know where I'm going on that. So anyway, the scores on the doors are Star Trek 9 and then Star Wars 11. So
Oh,
another
Star
close
Wars
one.
1.
Yeah. So I think it's starting to come back after the trance and after the first couple of episodes we did. So there we are. I suppose it's any other business. For anybody who doesn't know where I heard of Seth, please, who are you? Where can you find you?
Well, you can find me. I usually talk about tabletop role-playing games at the highly imaginative name Seth Skorkowsky. So once you know how to spell it, you can find my YouTube channel. I'm also an author. I do urban fantasy and horror. So it's all meant to, my YouTube channel is meant to like promote me as an author. So I didn't want to like have a cool channel name. It's just Joe's my giant unpronounceable name instead. So once you can figure out how to spell it, you can find my books from my YouTube channel, and hopefully there's something nerdly in there that strikes your fancy.
Oh, good. Olympus.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, so Olympus 0511 is my gamer tag that I've stuck with for everything. So if you search for that tag, you will find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. I do have a TikTok page, which I've kind of left alone recently. I've just been throwing, or I was throwing a few gaming videos up there for a little while. My YouTube's just starting to kick off a little bit. I've been doing a load of shorts, and I'm hoping to get into some actual videos soon. So you can find me across those platforms. What I love saying every single episode, because it's true, and Ben pointed it out to me to begin with, is that do not put a space between Olympus and 0511, because if you do, you'll get loads of videos about cameras instead of finding me, which you might prefer, who knows. But yeah, so that is me. Ben, where can we find you, mate?
So if you're watching this on Spotify, you can find me at TrekWars and Fantasy on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, we have a Spotify for podcast. I do occasionally. I've started trying to restream at the moment, so you also find me on Twitch under the same name, and I am on Twitter at TrekWars Fantasy because I haven't got enough letters to put and in there. So there we are. I think that's probably sums it up, to be honest. So
I think so. I guess just a final massive thank you, Seth, for joining us. I've had a great time talking to you and Ben and going through all of these picks. It's been phenomenal having you with us.
No, it's fun. This is a lot of fun. I love BSing about movies and crap. So no, this is my jam. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I go over the top and thank yous as well, just thank you for watching and live long and prosper, or may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.